Well, hello, welcome to I Love Gay today, sponsored by GayRealEstate.com. And we are here in DC, and we are here with Kaelan Strouse. How are you, Kaelan?
I'm doing excellent. How are you today?
Fantastic. I was so glad you have fans out there. I will admit freely, I didn't know who you were, and but some of your fans had reached out to me and said, I love your show, and you really need to get Kaelan on your show. He's got a great story to tell. And as I started digging around, I was like, oh, I think you really do.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
Same here. And so, but no, you really kind of touch on a lot of things. The business that and your website is called Ecstatic Self, but it seems that you really bring a variety of things together: sexuality, spirituality, authenticity, belonging. I stole those from your website, but yeah, just tell us a little bit about what you do there.
I think you articulated it incredibly well. For me, I've been very interested in the exploration of how do we be our most radiant, authentic selves. And I draw a lot on my own journey of finding that. So I started off life as a professional actor, director, and also a yoga meditation teacher. I lived in a meditation community in Chicago, an ashram, and would bounce between being at 6 a.m. meditation class and then theater rehearsals and film shoots and yoga retreats. And that was my life for several years. And when I decided to leave acting, I moved into corporate coaching work, which gave me a wonderful opportunity to meet wonderful people and talk about leadership skills and empathy coaching and conflict resolution. But my heart didn't feel like it was in the right place. When the pandemic happened, everything kind of came together for me. I wrote my first book, Journey to the Ecstatic Self, and I started to integrate all those different aspects
Wow.
as a gay man who took a long time to come out and to come to terms with my sexuality and being comfortable being a sexual being, even. I was 25 the very first time I even hooked up with someone. All of that has been part of my journey of learning to be radiantly, authentically me and to be unapologetic to say all parts of me, all parts of all of us are sacred, all parts of us are beautiful, all parts of us are worthy of showing up. And that when we segment our identities, when we segment our lives, when we break apart ourselves into the things that are only appropriate in one setting and only allowed to show up in a different setting, it makes for a life that feels a little discombobulated. And so I bring it all together holistically with a meditative bent and say, you are beautiful, you are sacred, you are exactly as you're meant to be. Let's own all of you.
Wow. And well, I mean, I'm assuming you put a lot of that into your book. You've got two books actually, and but is that your main focus, or do you also work with clients locally, or kind of what's the business side that you do?
Yeah, I work with people one on one. Most of them are virtual. So I work with people around the world. I've had clients in Sweden and Germany and India, like literally all over. So mostly it's one on one. I meet with people for about an hour a week, give them homework. So I'm always checking in on them, seeing how that's going. But yeah, I've got my social media posts, I've got my book writing, I've got my one on one clients, and bounce between all those things.
Wow. But you mentioned at the beginning, but like just I guess the idea, you kind of transformed yourself. You said actor, uh, corporate world, and so forth. And but what was like your main motivation? Like, how did, especially was it when you were in India? Was it transformational there, or kind of what spurred you to kind of go in this direction?
From the time I was a little kid, I've always been interested in personal growth. My father used to lead workshops like in local libraries on personal development and how to become a better person. So it was really kind of ingrained in me at a very young age. And I grew up as somebody who was tremendously bullied. Like I was the class scapegoat from first grade onward. And I very quickly started to latch onto this idea of how can I level up? How can I become a better person of me just to survive, just to escape all the persecution from my peers? But more than that, even I think I resonated with this idea of there being something greater at a very young age. I was raised Methodist, and I remember turning to the leaders of the church and asking, like, hey, how can I have a more profound experience of life? How can I have a deeper connection to something that feels deeply spiritual, God, the cosmos, whatever you want to call it? And they couldn't give me an answer. But I could remember when I was younger having really intense experiences where I felt like, the world was spinning around me and feeling states of ecstasy for no reason other than just being aware of my breath. And so when I turned to yoga, when I turned to meditation, when I turned to the more esoteric practices we find in the East, I finally started to find those answers. And I knew at a young age that communicating, sharing stories, speaking to people, having that connection that you find as an actor with an audience was meaningful to me, but I never felt like acting was the right fit. So as I've gone on my journey, I've just tried to take all the moments that were meaningful, that really resonated with me, those aha moments, those eureka moments, and start to string them together into a proverbial necklace, bead by bead. And I just feel so blessed to be doing the work that I'm doing today because it really draws on all of that. It draws on those esoteric, extrasensory experiences. It draws on the very practical heart to heart whispered conversations. It draws on, using art through visual medium or a written medium to inspire and motivate and create change in the world. So for me, it really is just an amalgamation of all the life experiences I've had.
Wow. Well, it's interesting because, especially when I was learning more about you, I always find that everybody's got their own mix of how they, their outreach, how they communicate to the world, and of course, social media. And most folks are always Instagram, Facebook first, but you have a really interesting combination of Twitter as a strong, or X, but then also an amazing channel on YouTube. I mean, the content you've put out there on YouTube is just it's incredible.
Well, thank you very much. I put a lot of work into it. And I've never been drawn to Instagram or TikTok just because of it being a short form medium. I really do believe in nuance, which is something our culture is not good at. I'm a big believer in gray areas, which our culture is not good at. And I'm a big believer that there are many right perspectives and many right sides to a story. And so creating a 20-minute or a 30-minute YouTube video allows me to dive into the nuance and dive into the conflicting ideas and to hold space for all of that and to say, hey, it's never just one thing or another. There's hardly ever a situation that's fully right, fully wrong, fully positive, fully negative. And I believe that part of the joy of the human experience is embracing the conflict,
Yeah.
embracing the moments that are clashing, and to see it as sacred, to see it as beautiful, to see it as perfect with all of its imperfections. And YouTube gives me a really beautiful platform to do that.
Yeah, well, it shows. So, but also I took note. You have a winter spiritual retreat coming up in a few months in Vermont, of all places. So that sounds exciting.
I'm very excited. Doing in-person retreats is something that I've been working towards. So we've got our first one coming up in February.
Yeah,
Uh, it sold out 10 days after it was announced. So that was very cool to see. I'm going to be announcing another one actually later this week.
yeah,
It's 12 days in India. So I'm really excited to be sharing that with people. And I'm going to try and get at least one more scheduled someplace, sometime next year as well.
yeah. Where in India, by the way?
We're going to be starting in Delhi, going to Varanasi, Rishikesh, Hardwar, like trying to really
Yeah.
focusing on some really sacred sites, temples, and then staying in some bougie five-star hotels along the way. I want to feel safe and comfortable.
Oh, I just had to ask. I was recently in India, and over the last few years, I've been to Varanasi, so I know exactly what you're talking about when you're going to bring folks there.
I love it.
Yeah. And so yeah, no, you've got that coming up in Vermont. The one last thing I was going to point out, I think it's amazing. Your husband helps you put that together, correct?
My husband is my counselor, my best friend, my advisor, my guru. Is everything to me. His training is as a clinical psychologist, so it's
Yeah,
always nice to bounce ideas off of him. He's a big philosopher. That was his major at
yeah.
Stanford in college, and he is one of the smartest, kindest, most integrated people I've ever met. So everything I do, I always bounce ideas with him and plan with him. And so yeah, he'll be co-facilitating that retreat, and it's been great seeing him show up more on my YouTube channel and see him kind of step more into this arena a little bit.
Yeah. I will tell you, I loved seeing that. So, folks don't really feel like they know us until they get a chance to know our better half. So, but no, really, I'm just so glad you were able to kind of take a few moments of your time and share a bit of your story with our audience. And I very much look forward to being able to connect sometime here in the real world.
Oh, it's my sincere pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again.